Okay, so here we are, brothers and sisters. We're going to finish off chapter 6 here with this video. Let me just recap, because sometimes you kind of lose the forest through the trees in some of these studies here, especially these in-depth ones that span several videos. Let's just kind of walk back through what we learned. So first I said, we're going to apply these rules, these hermeneutics to our study, and the first one we run into is Gideon's name means feller of trees, and we took a quick look then what could that mean, and we saw in Deuteronomy here, as the children of Israel were getting commissioned to go into the land by Moses and subsequently taken there by Joshua, they were to expel all the tribes that were of giants that were out there in front of them, and God said he would go before them. Matter of fact, the very first town they took after they crossed over into the land was Jericho, and the angel of the Lord showed up right before they took Jericho, and so the Lord did go out in front of them, and he was letting them know that, in my estimation, by showing up there at Jericho. But long story short then, they were supposed to drive out all these tribes, but after they got into the land, they didn't. They left members of those tribes in everywhere that they went. And we saw in a couple of passages references to these giants as trees, cedar and oak trees in particular. And we saw that in these verses here, and then we took a look at Amos chapter 2 and saw it again. We popped down, took a look at Joshua 11, just confirming that after the children of Israel got in the land, they didn't drive out these giants in front of them, and here we get them called Anakims, but again, it's giants. And I suspect these are fallen angels mating with women, producing these half-breeded giant humanoids, but I suspect they were coming in different shapes and sizes, because we have them likened to cedars and to oaks in terms of strength. These Anakims were really tall, and yet we'll see here before we finish off our Gideon study, the Amalekites probably also had the cranial deformation, if you want to say, in their bloodline. So I think these were different genetic bastardizations, if you want to say, and it's the primary reason, I believe, that God told them that they needed to kill off every man, woman, and child from these tribes in the land that they were going to go in and possess. And when we saw them go in Judges, we saw that they didn't kill them all off, but they left some in just about every place they went. We saw the timeline of the Judges. It's about a couple hundred years after the children entered the land originally. And then we took a look at a few maps just to see that the Amalekites and the Midianites came from the Saudi Arabian area, but it was a huge expanse of land, like the whole northern half, inclusive of the Mount Sinai area. We took a look at the map of that. They were said to be Abraham's descendants in Genesis 25. The Midianites, I think it was, were they were also the merchants who purchased Joseph in that story in Genesis. And Moses' father-in-law and wife, the father-in-law was a priest, probably a priest of Baal, and his wife came from the Canaanites, which is a Midianite tribe. And the worship practices here is the sin that was brought into Israel, documented in Numbers 23 through 25. So then we kind of came down through Judges 6, sorry about that, and we got into the feller of trees and the giant stuff a little bit more. We took a look at a lot of the pictures that are easy to find now that track, I'm just going to say, this Satan worship, because the sun is Satan in this imagery, the bull or Nimrod being 1/3 man, 2/3 fallen angel worshiping the sun. He was the high priest of Satan, and we saw that through the amulet he was wearing, through the picturing of Nimrod being 2/3 bull, 1/3 man. We saw that in the imagery, and we saw how it carried through even to today, and all pagan religions track right back to that original pagan story of Nimrod, Semiramis, and Tammuz. Okay, so we did that, and then we saw Gideon was called by the angel of the, first called by the Lord, by the angel of the Lord, and he prepared an offering unto the Lord. And that angel of the Lord was likely a Christophany, a pre-incarnate view of Christ that came to him, and it was stunning. And then we got into this command he was given to pull down the altars of Baal and Ashtoreth, which were the gods of Gideon's father, and presumably his God as well, until this Christophany happened. And so you see a faith conversion of Gideon as he comes back to the Lord and is obeying the commandment of the angel of the Lord in slaughtering 2 bulls, which we looked at the imagery of the bull being Nimrod, and 2 being a witness. So we did the video there where we saw that this sacrifice wasn't a Levitical sin offering sacrifice of a bull on the temple altar, but this was a sacrifice on the torn down altar of Baal of 2 bulls as a witness against the children of Israel worshiping the false god, actually Satan, and they probably didn't know it as such back then. And the bulls had to be 7 years old, which that's divine completion. So it's a divine judgment being issued, and it got burned with the fire of the Asherah poles that were cut down, the oak of the groves. And Asherah is Semiramis in symbology, and so we've got Nimrod and Semiramis taking place there. And one thing, I'm not sure, I probably pointed this out, but Gideon took 10 men to complete that sacrifice that he was told to do, and 10 is the number of earthly completion. And so here you see the obedience of Gideon here on earth to do the offering that the angel of the Lord told him to do, which was probably a divine witness against the worship practices of Baal, or I'm just going to say Nimrod. So now we're down here. We're going to read Judges verse 33 through 40, and hopefully that was a good little recap there. So 33, then all the Midianites, the Amalekites, and certain groups from the east gathered together to cross the Jordan River and set up camp in the Jezreel Valley. And if you look at a map, let me pull that up quick so you know what we're talking about here. Okay, and so this is a little snapshot into Gideon and the layout of the time. So here's the Jordan River coming down through here, and here's this valley of Jezreel, and we mentioned Ophrah before that, so you can see kind of where we're at. So they're talking about crossing over the Jordan, and that's right in this area here, and they're in the valley of Jezreel. Okay. Verse 34, so the Spirit of the Lord took control of Gideon, who blew a trumpet, mustering the descendants of Abiezer to follow him into battle. And what's great about this, and you got to watch the subtleties, here we've got the Spirit of the Lord coming on Gideon, and that's how it happened in Old Testament times. The Spirit didn't indwell the believer, but it came on the believers, just like it came on David, came on Elijah, who outran the chariots, type of thing. So it comes on Gideon, the Spirit comes on him. But if you look, there's the Spirit. Right before it we had the angel of the Lord, the Christophany, coming to Gideon, so that would have been Jesus pre-incarnate. And earlier up we've got a prophet of the Lord, capital Lord, who came to Gideon to tell him to tell him. Sorry. The point is the entire Trinity shows up here in chapter 6. So I apologize. It's just like skipping a beat in my brain. But so the angel of the Lord was second, and the Spirit of the Lord here was third. So the Trinity is pictured here in Judges 6. Okay. He sent messages to the entire tribe of Manasseh, which Gideon was in the tribe of Abiezer, in the clan of Abiezer in the tribe of Manasseh, calling them to follow him. And he also sent word to the tribes of Asher, Zebulun, Naphtali, calling them to meet. And so that those were the other tribes that were surrounding up there. Then Gideon told God, if you intend to deliver Israel by my efforts, as you have said, then take a look at the wool fleece that I am placing in front of the threshing floor. If dew appears only on the fleece, and it's dry in the ground and all around, then I'll know that you delivered Israel by my efforts like you have said. And when that has happened, when he got up early the next morning, he wrung out the fleece to drain the dew from it and extracted a bowl full of water. Then Gideon told God, don't let yourself be angry with me. I want to ask you once again, please let me make a test with the fleece just once more. Cause it to be dry only on the fleece, but let there be dew all around on the ground. And God did it just like that later that night. It was dry only on the fleece, but the dew was all around on the ground. So I think that's shows you Gideon. He's leaves behind the Baal worship practices. He tears down the altar of Baal. He gets the Christophany. He sets up the drink and broth offering to the pre-incarnate Jesus. The Spirit comes upon him. He makes the call for battle, and then we see this interesting test because Gideon isn't quite there yet with his faith, is he? I mean, he was worshiping Baal when we entered this chapter, and now he's coming back to the Lord his God, but he's not confident yet, even though, the angel of the Lord, the pre-incarnate Jesus, called him the mighty warrior right out of the chute. He is still not that yet, and I'm still personally curious about what's going on here with the fleece, the wool fleece. Dew in the Bible represents resurrection, I believe, and I'm not sure the wool fleece might be something to do with the lamb that was slain. But since I haven't quite pulled that together, I'll leave that one for you. So there you go, saints. We wrapped up chapter 6. I hope you thought that was kind of cool. None of the commentaries I was in got into the offering of the two bulls as being significant, and the feller of trees hasn't been brought up in commentaries that I've read, and so I think we're getting a little bit deeper than your typical study with this one. Just as a little confirmation here, I just took a peek at who are the Midianites in Wikipedia, and they had thought to worship multiple gods, including Baal Peor, the Queen of Heaven, and also it's called Ashtaroth. And so just another confirmation here, the Midianites also worship Baal and Ashtaroth, which the Ashura pole Ashtaroth. But another name for that is the Queen of Heaven, and so Queen of Heaven was Semiramis in the time of the original Babylon after the flood. So we've got all the wicked players that are being worshipped by the Midianites, and here it's also by the Moabites. And we saw that was the worship of Gideon's family, as well as it was the worship practices that they adopted from the Amorites that lived around them, the giants. So okay, saints, look forward hopefully to chapter 7 of Judges.